Just because it's August now doesn't mean that you can't still sow some seeds and keep yourself in fresh vegetables right through autumn. It's just a select few. There's quite a lot of things that have passed the time, but there's still a handful of other things that you can do a continuation of sowings right through up until your first frosts. And of course, one of your main ones is going to be your lettuce leaves. All different kinds of lettuce leaf that you can sow. Different sizes, different colours, different tastes. Mix them up into pots and get yourself a cut and come again salad bowl growing. Just use something like this. Bit of compost. Broadcast different types of seeds into one of these. And then you'll have all different coloured salad leaves to harvest over the next few weeks. And once you start harvesting something like this, make another one to replace this when it's exhausted, and just keep doing that. Also, you can be doing the same thing with spinach, because as we know, spinach doesn't like hot temperatures. It bolts really easily, which is a bit of a problem through summer. But once you get to the back end of summer and start approaching autumn, then it's perfectly fine to be sowing things like spinach, because it's that little bit cooler, so it won't go to flower as easily. And then you can obviously keep yourself in a continuation of fresh spinach leaves right through until Christmas. If you've got any spring onion seeds left, now's a good time to sow spring onions. Select the area that you want to put them in, or again, plant them in containers and get some seeds sown, because they'll stand quite happily through the colder months and winter. What I use more often than anything is white Lisbon. They seem to be quite hardy onions, so I go with the same ones every year. But there is different varieties of spring onion out there, so give something else a try. You could also sow a few carrots. Carrots are cold hardy, but if you use early varieties, you're going to get a crop quicker. So use an early Nantes or something like that will take a few months to mature. And again, you could put them in containers, like the one we previously mentioned. Especially if you're wanting to grow baby carrots, which harvest at just a couple of inches. Then you could overseed a tray like this and have them growing really close together, and then just pull them all as a clump of baby carrots. Perfect for dropping into your stews in autumn. And then your quicker cropping salads like radish that reach maturity in just a few weeks. Keep batches of those growing. And there's lots of different varieties of those as well that you can mix and match for different colours. We've probably all got things like beetroot in the ground already, reaching half decent sizes, ready for autumn harvesting. You can still grow beetroot for salad leaves. So if you want to have a mixture of colours in your salads, try doing a few of those. And you can also grow things like kale for baby leaves. They don't have to become a big mature plant. So you can overseed some kale and then take the little leaves as they're starting to grow. You could also try some Chinese cabbages, because again, a Chinese cabbage is one of those vegetables that bolts really easy if it gets to the height of summer. But as we get to a point now where we can start and sow the seeds to grow little seedlings to plant out in a few weeks' time, it's going to be a lot cooler then. So things like Chinese cabbage are going to grow a lot easier. You can also sow more cabbages. If you want to use an early cabbage and get a small hearting cabbage out of it, you can do that, not a problem. But you could also sow things like Savoy cabbage for overwintering, because they're very cold hardy plants. So you can start those cabbage seedlings off now, grow them into decent sized plants, and then just plant them outside. Obviously under cover, not because of cabbage white butterflies, because they'll have gone by then, but the pigeons will still shred your cabbage first chance they get. So you need to keep them under cover with netting. and they'll stand all the way through winter. So once we get to next spring and start thinking about the first plants that we can get into the ground for New Year, you'll have cabbages from the previous year ready to harvest. But if you're going to grow things and then keep them in a greenhouse, you could also try experimenting with things like peas and beans, because they've got that added protection from the outside winds that we keep getting, especially around this area. They've got a more controlled environment. And I did it last year. I just put a few French bean plants inside a greenhouse and left them to grow. And they did carry on producing right up until December. Just for that extra bit of protection. So you could try that with peas and beans. And once all these plants are finished in all these greenhouses at the end of the year, I'm going to be bubble wrapping one of the big greenhouses, and I'm going to try and grow as much as I can all over winter and see how much difference it makes to have that little bit of extra protection through the harshest months in the UK, and see if we can get any kind of result from doing that. But obviously things like your tomato plants will have long gone, and it's not feasible to even think about trying to overwinter things like tomato plants or cucumbers. But you can overwinter your peppers, but to do that they will need to be taken indoors because they will not stand any amount of frost. But you can save some select plants and overwinter them indoors, as long as you know that you can still provide them with the warmth and the light that they need. You'll cut those plants back and they will go dormant, but they'll spring back into life the following year as soon as those temperatures increase. So it might be something worth thinking about doing. So just because your plants have now reached this stage and this stage, mature plants that have reached the potential in August, which is now then the start of harvesting. But that doesn't mean that you can't carry on sowing more for use later in the year. And you just need a few little containers like this if you're doing small space gardening especially. And as all these plants draw to an end later in the year, we can rack out this greenhouse, get things raised off the ground, we can protect them with bubble wrap and fleece, and still keep growing more and more food, right up to the point where nature says no. So just because it's August doesn't mean that the sowing is over with and there's nothing more to think about growing. There's still a few things that we can keep at. And more importantly, we can now make us plans for what we'll be doing next spring. And hopefully, even if you're a newbie gardener, because you've been following this channel for a full year, come spring next year, you should already have things growing out there, virtually ready for your first harvest. Anyway, thank you very much for watching this video, really appreciate it. And if you want to see what we do sow between now and the end of the season, then please just hit the subscribe button, press that notifications bell, and we'll see you at next update. You all take care and have a really nice weekend. Bye.